Let's talk about social structures. Social structures could be mental, cultural models, even physical and institutional arrangement that influence our capacity for doing good or doing evil. Now, in the long tradition of the Catholic social teaching, there is an important point here that beyond individual acts of kindness, there are possibilities for social reforms. Pope Francis reminds us in his Fratelli Tutti about the wisdom of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Remember, there was this victim of violence and negligence. The victim of the thieves, the robbers, were left along the side, almost dead. But the two religious persons, after seeing the victim, look the other way around. Maybe we can understand that as a product of a whole social structure that infuses fear, fear of maybe the violent persons are just around the corner, fear that maybe I cannot do anything really to change the structures. But Pope Francis reminds us that even that feeling of helplessness is already a product of the manipulation of the powerful. They want us to feel helpless. And therefore, some people say, I don't want to hear the news anymore. The result is okay, I just help whatever I could to attend to the needy in a humanitarian way. But the Catholic social tradition, as represented by Pope Francis, says while it is good to help one person, there is much more need to transform society in terms of political, economic, and even ecological reform. The Pope Francis reminds us that um, the Good Samaritan individual actually transferred the victim to a Good Samaritan institution. And to run an institution, you need a manager. You need an ambulance, for example. The ambulance would have a driver who needs salary. The salary will have to be controlled by the Department of Labor. The ambulance needs roads. There should be a government agency building roads and maintaining them. There should be oil, and the oil would come from the international diplomacy with the oil producing countries. In other words, it's not enough to engage in individual acts of charity. It could be effectively joyful, but it may not be effective in transforming society itself. And so the Catholic social teaching reminds us that we need to go and help individual victims, but there must be also institutional and structural reform. While there are structures of sin that prevents us from doing what is good and even enhances our capacity for evil, there are also structures of grace which we must promote, because structures of grace enhances our capacity for doing good and even allows God's Spirit to fill up what we need in doing what is good and fighting what is evil.